Mr. Tony Abbott, former Australian Prime Minister, joins us. So many thanks for speaking to it. My first question would be the trade deal between India and Australia. It has reached to almost to the final stage. But what sort of benefits you see so for Australia, for India, and especially in terms of employment?
The trade deal that was finalised in December last year, while it's been expressed as an interim agreement, is a very, very good agreement. It's the first agreement that India has done with a significant country for a decade, and it's the best agreement that India has done with any significant country. And under the existing ECTA, or Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, 90% of Australian exports to India will be tariff and quota free, and 100% of India's exports to Australia will be tariff and quota free. So this is already a very good deal. I know that our respective trade ministers now want to improve on it, but let's not wait for perfection. Let's take advantage of the very, very good arrangements that we've now got. And let's remember that under the existing arrangements, trade is already growing strongly. Two-way trade that was about $25 billion just a couple of years ago is now up to $40 billion. And given India's growing prosperity and economic sophistication, given the desire of India to have strategic minerals partnerships with Australia, given the desire of many countries to somewhat decouple from China, I think there are great opportunities for this India-Australia deal.
To what extent do you think so that this trade deal will help the business to grow in terms of the commerce that is currently going on? You are saying that it is likely to cross the mark of $40 million. So on a long-term basis, where you see?
Well, I think it's all upside when it comes to Australia and India, because for years our economic relationship was underdeveloped. I still think that there's vast potential, given that India is the world's fastest growing major economy, is likely to be the world's fastest growing major economy for the foreseeable future. I think under Prime Minister Modi, India is on the verge of the kind of economic takeoff that we saw in China a couple of decades ago. You only have to look at the vast infrastructure program underway in almost every major Indian city. I think this country is going places, and that's good for India. But I think it's good for the wider world, because India is not just the world's most populous country, but it's the world's biggest democracy.
Absolutely. And taking the Indus ECTA, the success that you are narrating, will it also be proved to be a benchmark for other trade relations or the talks that is currently going on, whether it be from Indian side or from the Australian side?
Look, we've got trade agreements with most of our major trading partners now. So we're very pleased to have the Indian deal, because it was probably the last big piece of the trade jigsaw for Australia. But obviously India still can do deals with the United Kingdom, with the EU perhaps, although that's always going to be hard, maybe even with America down the track. But if I can put my Australian hat to one side and put on my UK Board of Trade hat for a moment, I very much hope that the India-United Kingdom trade deal can happen soon, because obviously Britain is an economy about the same size as India's, an extremely sophisticated economy. And I think that, again, any deal would have to be very good for both countries.
I take Mr. Abbott on the global scenario. You have seen that the war, the Russia-Ukraine war, there's no end to the road. But major economies, they are actually facing a lot of challenges. Where do you think so that India can put itself in a strong position, how it can put it itself? And globally, seeking the scenario, what is your take on the same?
Look, I think a lot of countries are reassessing their relationship with China under the present Xi-jin regime. And I think for a lot of those countries it means trying to reduce their economic dependence on China. So I think there is a degree of decoupling going on. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity for India, because India doesn't use trade as a weapon. India doesn't turn trade on and off like a tap to punish other countries. In India, trade is something that people do, businesses do, without interference from government. That's not the case in China. And that's why I think, despite all the difficulties that the world currently has, some self-inflicted, like some of the pandemic lockdowns, some external, like the brutal Russian attack on Ukraine, and some perhaps prospective worries about what may or may not happen down the track in East Asia. But I think all of these mean that the world is looking for more reliable partners, and India has the potential to be just what the world is looking for.
And my last question would be, just your personal opinion, seeking the kind of economic policy this government is having, the kind of approach, the steps that this government has taken. Year 2024 is going to be the next general elections in India. You want that this government should continue? Your opinion?
Look, it's really not my business to give the Indian people advice on how they vote, but I certainly do think that the Modi government has been a transformative government for India. And personally, I have enormous admiration and warmth for Prime Minister Modi, who I think has been a very, very significant leader in global terms. I mean, but for Modi and Shinzo Abe, there would never have been a Quad. And the Quad is the most significant strategic development since NATO. So, look, whatever happens in next year's election, Narendra Modi has been one of India's very greatest statesmen.
Many thanks for speaking to Xi-jin. Many thanks. With camera person Devendra, this is Samir Dikshit for ECTA Now.